Hey YouTube, it's AI Enigma here. So this is our third session in Road to Cat RC series, and in this session we are dealing with an anthropology based RC. As usual, I will provide the PDF of the session in the comment section below, so you can try the RC yourself. And then once you have tried the RC, you should look at the solution for clearer understanding. So let's get started. Some of the oldest stone tools ever found have offered a rare glimpse into the lives of early humans and their relatives. An archaeological excavation on the shore of Lake Victoria in Kenya has unearthed hundreds of stone tools and fossils dating to as early as 3 million years ago. Okay. These tools, found alongside teeth from human relative and the butchered remains of ancient hippopotamus-like creatures, provide some of the first direct evidence that early hominins used stone tools to feed on large animals. So, this is a key detail. Like what we understand from the first paragraph itself, that we have earthed, you can say, we have unearthed stone tools from an archaeological excavation site in Kenya, and due to this unearthing of hundreds of stone tools and fossils, we can get a glimpse as of early as 3 million years ago, you can say, because these fossils and stones dates back to, you can say, 3 million years ago. Also, not only we have unearthed stone tools itself, we had also found teeth from human relatives. You know, they are not specifically human but relatives of human. We have found teeth from human relatives with the butchered remains of ancient hippopotamus like creatures, and it provides a first direct evidence in the early hominins that the early hominins used tools to feed on large animals. You can say they use tools to feed on large animals. This is the early evidence. So this is so far so good. The site now joins a handful of others that have yielded tools dating back to the earliest adoption of stone technology. Gaps in the archaeological record have made it challenging to study tool making in our earliest ancestors. Hominins, the group of primates that include Homo sapiens and its relative, first start using tools at least 3.3 million years ago. So this is a key crux of information that's been provided here. So let's highlight it. Researchers know this because of stone tools unearthed at a single site in northern Kenya. So, in the second paragraph itself, the main crux of information or the main argument here is that there are handfuls of sites that have been unearthed right now, and this site of Kenya joins them, and we can understand that the tools that have been yielded from these sites date back to the earliest adoption of stone technology. You can say when stone technology was actually being used. Then we say that there have been gaps in archaeological records, and that makes it extremely challenging to study tool making in our earliest ancestors, because if, let's say, some tools were used 300 million years ago and there's a gap of 200 years, so that raises the questions, why were stone tools not clear to us or were not visible to us for 200 years ago, 200 million years ago. So this is probably a thing that's being said by the author. Hominins, the group of primates that include Homo sapiens and its relative, first started using tools at least 3.3 million years ago. So that's specifically stated that Homo sapiens and, like the in its relative, they started using tools at least 3.3 million years ago. This is being stated in the paragraph itself. And why researchers know this? Because stone tools which is unearthed at a single site in northern Kenya, because at a single site in northern Kenya, can say unearthed, and because of that researchers know this fact. But the next known set of stone tools, called Oldowan tools, doesn't pop up in the archaeological record for another 700,000 years. This type of tool eventually became widespread across Africa and into Asia, but the dearth of artifacts from between the two early sites means that finding out how tools were made and used during this period of almost 1 million years is a challenge. So this is one thing that you have to understand. Although, like, we have unearthed some tools, but the next stone tools, which are called as Oldowan tools, this is a key crux of information which is really important. The next set of tools, which are called as Oldowan tools, these tools don't pop up in archaeological record for another 700,000 years. So there is a gap of 700,000 years before these in between these tools and other sets of tools that we discovered. Now, this raises a widespread question, because these tools were widespread across Africa and Asia, but we don't have any artifacts. There is a lack of artifacts between these two early excavation sites. So So how these tools were made, and you can say they how these tools were used during this period of 700,000, or you can say at least a million years ago gap, is the main, you can say, question, or you can say main concern that we need to tackle, that's being asked in the paragraph itself. The site in Kenya is now offering some fresh insights. So author is saying that the site in Kenya, which is being unearthed right now, it offers some fresh insights. The crew started excavating at the new site in 2015. They unearthed the 330 artifacts, including 42 older one stone tools scattering around the bones of an ancestral hippo. Some of the hippo bones, as well as other animal remains at the site, bore signs of being cut and scraped by stone implements. This also pushes back the known start of large animal butchering by hominins by at least 600,000 years. Microanalysis of some of the tools suggest some were used to pound plant material, possibly hard roots or tubers. So what this sense of paragraph is, what the paragraph is explaining here, the paragraph is saying that, in Kenya, when the unearthing of these stone tools occur, the site of Kenya is offering us a very rare and fresh insights. What are those insights? Is what they unearthed first. Let's start with that. There were 330 artifacts, including there were 42 older one tools, and they were scattered around. You can say bones of an ancestral hippo. That is the first thing that's being mentioned in the paragraph. Also, along with that, you have to also understand that the hippo bones that were discovered, as well as remains of some other animals also, they were seen to be cut by the some sort of instrument or stone instrument that you can see being cut and scraped by stone implements. So what this actually does, because we have discovered that they were actually cut by stone implements, so this pushes back the use of stone technology, or you can say by animal butchering. So this pushes back the use of stone tools by humans for animal butchering by at least 600,000 years. So this is really important, but you have to notice one thing. This is mentioning on large animal butchering. Okay, so the use of stone tools for large animal butchering is being pushed for at least 600,000 years. This is really important. And then when they microanalyzed the stone tools, they also discovered that the stone tools are also used to pound plant material and possibly hard roots of tubers. That's specifically clear. Now let's go further. These findings suggest that stone tools were crucial for accessing hard to get foods, says Thomas Plumer, a paleoanthropologist at Queen's College City University of New York in Flushing. So the finding of the stone tool is being suggested here, that these findings suggest that stone tools were crucial for accessing hard to get foods. Like stone tools were specifically used for using for accessing food which is really hard to get, whether it can be a mountain or any extreme places can be there. Then it says early hominins would have been limited by what they could tear with their hands and teeth. He says stone tools allowed them to work outside of their mouths. So this is really important. Authors, he also says, the Thomas Plumer also says that early hominins would have been limited by what they could tear with their hands. Because they are what they could tear with their hands and mouth. That's why they needed the stone tool itself for tearing those apart. Whether it can be, you can say, animal, or whether it can be a plant as well. Okay, so this is clear. Stone tools and fossilized animal bones weren't the only remains to come out of the site. So this is really important. This states that stone tools and fossilized remains were not the only thing that came out of the site. So what came out is being can be answered by the author itself in some lines. The researchers also stumbled on a tooth that belonged to an ancient relative of humans from a genus called Paranthropus. So we not only discovered stone tools and fossilized animal bones, we also discovered the remains of maybe of an ancestor of a human called as and they called them a Paranthropus. Okay, the tooth of an Paranthropus was discovered. Its presence near the hippocarcasses, along with another Paranthropus tooth also found at the site, raises the possibility that it might have been members of Paranthropus rather than of modern human genus Homo that used some of the stone tools at the site for butchering of the animals. So this is really important. What this states that because we discovered the tooth of Paranthropus, which is an early ancestor of humans, and we also discovered another tooth of Paranthropus at the same site. So this can mean that maybe it was not the early human which used, you can say, tools for hunting or tools for butchering the animals, but it was actually Paranthropus itself which was using these stone tools for hunting, or you can say butchering the animals. That's a specific key idea of this paragraph. It cast a doubt that humans were not the ones, that you can say humans were not the only ones who were using stone tools. Before humans, our earliest ancestor Paranthropus was using the stone tools. That doubt is casted by this paragraph. It isn't that surprising that other hominian lineages might have made tools, considering that the first known tools predate the emergence of Homo. So this is really important. What they state, that it is actually, what author says, that it is actually not that surprising that other hominin lineage might could have used tools, because the earlier known use of tools is actually before the emergence of Homo. Before Homo emerges, there were, you can say, uh, predating emergence of Homo, there were first uses of tool as well. So it was maybe not the humans which, you can say, the first candidate to, you can say, stone tools. That's the author's argument right now. But there is skepticism. Author says that, but here is a skepticism to this. What author has mentioned here, there is skepticism, there is a doubt here. What is the doubt? I personally do not believe that Paranthropus made Oldowan tools, says Mohammad Sahoni, a paleolithic archaeologist at the National Research Center on human evolution in Burgos, Spain. So there is a personal, or these are the, you can say, thoughts of Muhammad Sahoni. What he is and what he belongs to is none of our business. But what our views are, that I personally do not believe that Paranthropus made Oldowan tools. So he believes that, maybe what we are saying, that Paranthropus may have used, you can say, Oldowan tools. Sahoni believes that, maybe Paranthropus were not the ones who, you can say, made Oldowan tools, and he might give us reasoning as well. He says that hominin's anatomy suggests that it was well adapted to eating coarse food and might not have needed to master tool use. So he said the argument behind his thinking or his belief is that the early hominins, you can call them Paranthropus as well, they were actually, their anatomy was well adapted to eating coarse food, so they might not need tool at all, for eating food, or you can say butchering animals. And however, Sony adds that the finds are still a major breakthrough. But you can say Sahani concludes that the finding were actually a major breakthrough. Let's look at the questions. Which of the following most accurately describes the current archaeological record of stone tools? So we have to find an option which most accurately describes the current archaeological record of stone tools. Stone tools have been found consistently throughout the entire hominin timeline without any gaps in the archaeological record. Absolutely false statement. There have been gaps in the archaeological record. The first stone tools discovered date back to 3.3 million years ago, with the next known set of older one tools dating back to 2.6 million years ago. Absolutely correct. We know that the first known tool use was 3.3 million years ago, and then there was a gap of 700,000 years, after which older one tools were discovered. So this is definitely, you can say, the correct option. Older one tools are the earliest known stone tools with no evidence of earlier tool used by hominins. This is definitely wrong. We know that the earliest tool used was 3.3 million years ago, and after that older one tools were discovered. All of the archaeological evidence of stone tools used by hominid lineage that is currently available was excavated from various sites in Kenya. This is actually wrong. We know that all the sites were, first thing is that the use of all makes it very extreme, and second thing is that it was not that all the sites were excavated from Kenya. There was some site which was excavated from Kenya, and then there were sites from Africa, and you can say North Africa, if I clearly remember it. So there were other sites also. So this is not the correct answer. So the answer to the first question is second option. Based on the passage, all of the following are fresh insights gained from the site in Kenya, except, so which is not the fresh insight, which is negative, which is not been said in the passage that we have to tick. The unearthing of 42 older one tools, which supports the notion that early hominins utilized stone tools for feeding all large animals. This is actually positive, isn't it? This is actually positive. If you look and go back, and yeah, here it is. The crew started excavating at the new site in 2015. They unearthed 330 artifacts, including 42 older one stone tools scattered around the bones of an ancient hippo. Some of the hippo bones, as well as the other animals, remain at the site, bore signs of being cut and scrapped by the stone implements. This also pushes back the known start of large animal butchering by hominins by at least 600,000 years. So which means by the discovery of this, we can actually push back the, you can say, the known start of large animal butchering by hominins at least 600,000 years. So by the discovery of this, we can push back the start of butchering by 600,000 years by hominins. So this is actually correct. The revelation that the practice of butchering large animals by hominin began at least 600,000 years earlier than previously thought. This is actually true. This is actually true, as we have read right now. The indication that some stone tools were employed for processing plant materials like tough roots or tuber, emphasizing that role in obtaining difficult to reach foods. This has actually been in the consistency of the passage. So when three options are wrong, fourth is actually right. So let's read it further. The definitive proof that stone tools were exclusively used by Homo genus for animal butchering, excluding other hominin lineages that Paranthropus. This is actually not true. This is actually you can say a doubt. There is a skepticism here, so it's not necessarily clear. So this is the correct answer. Third option, the skepticism expressed by Paleolithic archaeologist Muhammad Sohanoni suggest which of the following possibility. Now let's look at the skepticism which is expressed by Muhammad Sononi itself. The skepticism by Muhammad Sononi is that I personally do not believe that Paranthropus made Oldovan tools. He believes that Paranthropus were not the ones who made Oldovan tools because Paranthropus had a anatomy which was perfectly well adapted for eating coarse foods, isn't it? So, so they don't need stone tools, or the use of stone tools were not needed by Paranthropus itself. So this is the belief that Muhammad Sanani have. So if we can prove, so why is the skepticism expressed by Paleolithic archaeologist Muhammad Sonani suggests which of the following possibilities. So which possibility is there? So if we believe that Muhammad Sonani skepticism is actually right, so which can be right in these four hypothetical scenarios that we have to take? The old one tools found at the site in Kenya were exclusively made and used by the genus Homo. This is actually the correct answer, because if we believe that the skepticism expressed by Paleolithic archaeologist Muhammad Shahanini suggests which of the following possibilities, this possibility. If the skepticism is actually right, then this is actually right, because Muhammad Shahanani believes that actually Paranthropus don't need, you can say, they don't need stone tools because their anatomy was adapted. And if they don't need, you can say, stone tools, that maybe humans were the only one and humans were the first one exclusively made by Homo itself. So this is the correct option. The older one tools were made and used long before the emergence of the ancestor of modern humans, Homo. So this actually proves the skepticism wrong. So this is not the correct answer. The Paranthropus genus was solely responsible for the development and use of older one tools. This also proves the you can say skepticism wrong. The presence of Paranthropus teeth at the site is unrelated to the use of stone tools for butchering animals. Now this is a clear example of, you can say, misdirection. I will call this option a misdirection, because you have to remember one thing. Muhammad Sohanoni has a problem with a use of Paranthropus with stone tools. He says that Paranthropus were not the ones which used stone tools because their anatomy was well adapted to eating coarse food. He does not mention the use of Paranthropus teeth. The Paranthropus teeth at the site is unrelated to the use of stone tools. He has no problem with Paranthropus teeth. He says that Paranthropus were not the one which were, you can say, responsible for the starting of, you can say, older one tools. That is a specifically important thing here. And so this is extremely wrong. So first is the correct answer. Which of the following statement, if false, negative, could be seen as contradicting, negative, the facts or arguments in the passage? So we need something which is positive or is aligning with the passage itself. There is no definitive evidence of stone tool use among early hominins that date back to 3.3 million years ago. This is actually wrong, because we know that the earliest known use of stone tools were 3.3 million years ago, isn't it? That first started using stone tools at least 3.3 million years ago. So this is actually wrong in itself. So this cannot be the answer. We need something which is positive. So this is wrong. Older one tools were assumed to be the first ever evidence for the use of stone tools for butchering animals. This is actually right. This is actually right. Why this is actually right? Let's look at the discovery of the older one tools. Yeah, look at here. Look at here. The crew started excavating at the new site in 2015. They unearthed 330 artifacts, including 42 Oldovan stone tools scattered around the bones of an ancestral hippo. Some of the hippo bones, was as well as other animals, remain at the site, bore signs of being cut and scraped by stone implements. This also pushes back the known start of large animal butchering by hominins by at least 6,000 years. So if by discovery of Oldovan tools and by hippo bones as another animal remains at the site, bore signs of being cut and scraped by stone implements, if this is being discovered, then due to that, this also pushes back the known start of large animal butchering by hominins by at least 6,000 years. So if something is being pushed back by 6,000 years, then maybe that was the first usage of that tool, isn't it? So that's why this makes it a correct answer, or with or with consensus with the passage that's being said. So 2 is definitely the correct choice. Evidence from the excavation at the new site in Kenya starting in 2015 challenges the date of first ever use of stone tools by early hominins. This is actually wrong. You have to remember one thing. This is actually wordplay. This is a clear wordplay. The problem here is that the excavation in the new sites in Kenya, which has been started in 2015, challenges the date of first ever use of stone tools. It is not challenging the first ever date of stone tools. First ever dates of stone tools was 3.3 million years ago. It is actually challenging the use of butchering of, you can say, animals. That's the first thing that you have to remember. If you remember this, yeah, look at again, animals being at the site of bore signs for being cut and scraped by stone implements itself, isn't it? So it is actually challenging the use of stone tools for butchering animals. That is the part is challenging. It's not challenging the first of ever use of stone tools, because first ever use of stone tools was 3.3 million years ago. That's not going to be changed. So this is not the answer. The archaeological excavation on the shore of Lake Victoria in Kenya leaves a million years gap in the archaeological record. This is absolutely false. We know that the first excavation started at 3.3 million years ago, and then you can say at 2.6 million years ago, we discovered the use of Oldowan tool. So there is a gap of 700,000 years that's been mentioned here. So 4 is also not the answer. The 2 is definitely the right answer towards this question.